balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Episode number 184. Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. I am your host, Lori Eisenstadt, IBCLC, and I help moms with breastfeeding. In last week's show, part 1, Dominique Gallo, who is an IBCLC from Virginia, we heard her tell about her experience breastfeeding her first baby, which was pretty easy peasy, and so was her second. So she was very surprised to have such pain with her third baby, and we all heard her tell us about being in denial when she was told that Frankie was tongue-tied. I don't know about any of you, however, hearing her tell stories about her husband, I would definitely say he's a fun guy and he has a great sense of humor, and it is because of him that she's probably able to get through some of the hard stuff, or a combination of both of them. They both have a great sense of humor. In today's show, you're going to hear some more funny stories from Dominique, and you're going to hear me cracking up at some of the antics that go on in her family. So let's get started with part 2. I'd love to hear, because you've breastfed 3 kids, and I always love to hear from moms that I talk to a couple of things. And let's start with, and I know you have a sense of humor about all this, but tell me just like something really cool that you really love about breastfeeding.
I like the fact that in my experience, it's an instant healer. And what I mean by that is everybody tends to ask, you're parenting, you're so calm with them. You seem to know what to do all the time with them. And I tell them in all actuality, I don't. And I feel like, I think it was the comedian, I want to say his last name was Gaffigan. He says, having a kid, you're treading water and then somebody hands you a baby. And that's how I feel sometimes all the time. So I don't really have it together, but the breastfeeding, I think if there's something wrong in that instant, I'm not forced to have to figure it out. I can just put them to breast because breastfeeding is comforting. And while they're nursing, I can look them over and assess for damage. I can talk to them.
Is there blood?
That's right. Is anything broken? I can assess everything. I can look around and I can think, why is this baby crying? What is wrong with this kid? Am I crazy? Is the kid normal and I'm crazy? Like, it calms me down too. I love it because it's an instant healer and it's a great parenting tool. And I often joke with my husband. I said, when I'm done breastfeeding, like, we have to figure out how to be parents. Because I don't have anything else. When they cry, he says, oh, do you want to nurse? He just hands me the baby. And then we sit there and figure it out while the baby's nursing. But when they're not nursing anymore, it's like we have to actually ask what hurts, who did it?
Uh-oh, where's the greatest tool man has ever made?
Right. It's like we have to actually parent now and figure things out. And that's scary to me, too, because it's like for the past 7 years, I've always had a baby nursing. I don't know what to do. Like, once he's done nursing, I have to figure out how to parent. But I do love that about nursing is that it is the instant healer. It settles the babies down and it settles me down and it grounds me and gives me time to think so I can respond to situations instead of reacting to situations. And I think that helps my kids out a lot too.
When you say that, I'm going to say something. Sometimes it freaks people out. And my kids do listen to the podcast from time to time. And they always love/hate when I talk about them. But I mean, I love the way that you put it all. It is so funny. One of the things I love when you said, I should just put them to breast and then I'm assessing the damage. That is just a funny way of putting it. And it's oh so true. And I also did have the sense, like, when I can't help these kids with breastfeeding, like, what am I going to do? But my biggest joke about it all is that, our kids go through all kinds of things as, toddlerhood and puberty and everything. And when my first daughter broke up with her first real boyfriend that she thought that, the world everything was going to cave in. When she broke, everything was over in her life. And she was 16. And it was just like the worst thing ever as a parent to watch your teenage daughter just crawl up in like a fetal position in her bed and just cry and cry and cry until like there's nothing left to cry, then take a break, fall asleep for a few minutes or a half hour, and then cry and cry in those big dry heat cries. And I said to my husband, I said, see this, I said, I wish I could breastfeed her because it would just make it all better,
yes.
and give us time to figure it out.
That's right.
And like I said, I have nothing for when these teenagers are going through stuff. This was a time when talking wasn't helping, reassuring wasn't helping. I did lay in bed with her and we did kind of like spoon with each other, but it was days and days. In fact, I remember saying to a friend of mine who's a midwife, and I was working in the hospital, and I said, this is the first time that I'm actually afraid to have my teenager be in like their bedroom by themselves with their door closed, because she is so incredibly, couldn't even say upset. I couldn't even say depressed. This daughter was like chatty Cathy. She talked to everybody. She was extremely sociable. And anytime she fell down, she got back up when it was in a relationship or at work or school. She sat and dwelled on it for 5 minutes or so and then got right back up. But this was going on like 3 days. And I just said, I'm so nervous. Like, and how much do I have to worry about her? And so we talked about it. But ultimately, that's what I said. Like, we need to figure out a way that we can breastfeed our teenagers to help them through these.
At least like some comfort nursing or something. Like even when my 7-year-old gets,
gosh darn it.
My 7-year-old gets into some fits sometimes because I always tell everybody she's my emotional child. And if anything happens to her, anything changing is happening, I have to be self-conscious in how we deliver the news to her. The baby, I don't think he knows if he's coming or going right now, and so we're okay. And the middle one, she can be laid back. So she's like, whatever, I don't care. She's truly a middle child. Nothing ever affects her till it's affecting her. My big girl she's so very emotional. And so when she goes through her times where she's having, those crocodile tears, bawling, crying, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if I could just nurse you, you would just stop and the world would be perfect.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Now I have to figure out how to help you.
Well, and another thing that you said that was just so funny that you and your husband said, when I'm not nursing anymore, we have to figure out how to be parents.
And he laughs, all the time. When my son goes to sleep without nursing, he's like, this is how it starts. First, they go to sleep at night without nursing. Then they stop nursing during the day. Then we got to start figuring stuff out.
I already love your husband.
He's a good partner for sure. He adds lots of sense of humor to even the most stressful situations. And he's good at grounding me too. Because sometimes I'll go there and he's like, you need to calm down.
Then I could already tell you that when you're the more emotional one is going through a breakup, you just leave the house and let your husband handle it.
It's so funny you say that because that's exactly what happens. Like, for instance, perfect example, yesterday, right? Her last day of school was Wednesday, and her teacher is actually not going to be a teacher anymore. She's leaving to go take over her parents' job because her mom's retiring, which is totally fine. And so the day of, there was like 4 girls in her class and they were crying. And I said, I said, Amberly, why are they crying? And she goes, oh, they're, very nonchalantly, they're just sad Miss Lewis is leaving. And I said, well, are you sad? Because I know how she can be. And I was like, are you sad? She goes, oh, no, I'm fine. And I was, in my head, I'm like, oh, thank God. Yesterday, we're leaving the softball game and she was singing. I think there was like a Taylor Swift song on the radio and she, Mom, turn it up and the windows are down and she was having a good old time back there singing. And then she got quiet and I turned around and her face is very red and puffy. And she looks like she's trying to keep it in, but she just can't. Like the emotion is just overcoming her. And I said, Amberly, what is wrong? And she's like, oh, Miss Lewis is never coming back. I'm never going to see her again. And I said, are you crying because your teacher's leaving? And she goes, yes. I said, okay. And I sent my husband a text message. I said, are you home? Amberly's crying. Teacher is leaving.
And he knew he was going to be on.
And as soon as we pulled up in the driveway, he is on the doorstep. And he just embraces her, and I just collect the other two, and we go in the house, and I just let him deal with it because he is so much better with that stuff than I am. Because I'm like, I don't understand. You were just fine, and now you're not. And I mean, she was just a mess. And so my husband said, I don't understand.
He had an interesting delayed reaction.
It was so weird. And sometimes, I wonder if she was crying for something else, but maybe she thought it would upset me, so she just gave this reason because it's a little less upsetting.
I'm sure she wasn't that conscientious.
No, that's what my husband thinks. My husband was like, yeah, I talked to her. She's really sad that Miss Lewis is leaving. And I was like, but she wasn't sad on Wednesday. Why didn't she cry with the rest of the girls? And he's like, I don't know. Maybe she was fine in that instant. And so I think it's maybe because she won an award that day. And so she was just riding off the high of having an award and everybody take pictures of her and everything. And then so now the reality sets in. She's in summer camp now. She's not going back to school. There's no more softball. And so she has nothing really to do over the summer. And I think it's just kind of hit her all at once. And that's when it all came out. But he's good at that stuff.
That certainly sounds reasonable. And you're probably right on that in her brain, she was distracted with other things. And it not only that she was distracted with other things, it actually didn't happen like right in front of her. It's this subjective thing that someone's talking about, but hasn't happened. Now she has time to sit and contemplate. And I bet you anything, sitting in the back seat, singing, she's kind of relaxed and these thoughts are coming to her. And then bam, that's a kind of fun story with your husband. I love that.
It's so funny because when we talked about having kids, it was always like, I'll deal with that stuff. And then you just handle all the fun stuff, like, you don't have to deal with the deep, heavy stuff. But when it came down to it, when she had her first like emotional situation, I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what to do with this. I'm not an emotional person in that way. So, and I think I just don't understand it. And so that's my frustration because I'm like, get it together. You don't need to cry over this. But my husband, he's a little bit more reserved. He says he's shy, and he's kind of a introvert. And she's kind of introvert herself. So I think he kind of understands her more because I'm an extrovert. So I don't understand. And it's so funny because I have lots of introvert friends, but I don't understand it. I tell them all the time. I don't understand it.
I don't know what to do with it.
Why don't you want to go outside? I don't understand it. But he does. And it's so funny how we had that role reversal because he's really good with that. And so whenever the kids are really down emotionally like that, I recognize that is not for me. And I just step back and I just let him do his thing. And it works out.
And as they get older, they might even just recognize that themselves. The kids easily learn which parent to go to for what it is that they need.
Yeah. And I think she's catching that on real fast too. Cause sometimes if she feels like she's getting there, I'll just say, do you need daddy? And she goes, yes, I need daddy. And I say, okay, let's go find daddy.
Let's go find daddy.
Right. And she has a diary that I just gave her a notebook. Cause one of my friends said that, have her write down her feelings. And that will help her calm down so that you can talk to her when she's more rational. Because I was just telling her that I just can't deal with the emotion. And so I was reading through her journal one day because I'm a parent and that's just what we do. In there one day, she just kind of wrote, I think she was maybe 6 when she wrote this, but she said, I was sad. I asked for daddy. I wonder if mommy was sad because I asked for daddy. I didn't tell her that I read it, because it's an invasion of privacy, but I'm a parent.
You've qualified yourself.
I told my friend, I was like, I just want her to know that I'm not sad that she asked for her dad. And I'm glad that she recognizes that mommy can't do everything. And sometimes daddies can do some things too. And so I just kind of nonchalantly one day, I think we were making Gallo or something because she loves to cook and just be in the kitchen doing stuff like that. So I just nonchalantly said, mommy can't do everything right. And she goes, yeah, you're not a good cook, but I'm a good cook and daddy's a good cook. And so we do those things for you. And I said, that's not quite where I was going, but yes. And I said, it's okay if you ask daddy for things that mommy can't do. And she goes, okay, and just left it at that. I mean, I didn't know how else to bring it up without saying, I read your journal today.
Well, no, you did it perfectly, but that's the really cool part about parenting and winging it and figuring things out on the fly. And lots of times we can get those lessons across in a very nonchalant way when we're doing something else. You learn that you don't have to sit your child down always and have a conversation about something specific, that you can have that conversation kind of just very leisurely fashion as you're doing, walking, doing activities together, driving, just sitting at the table, homework, driving around in the car, bedtime. It doesn't have to be. Taking a little break to let you know that you can now order my first book, which is all about the fourth trimester. It is called The New Mother Survival Guide, Practical Tips for the Fourth Trimester. It is really filled with lots of great tips on preparing and getting yourself organized for those first 12 weeks at home with a new baby. I've really taken into account my own personal experience being a postpartum doula for many years with other moms and teaching childbirth classes, seeing moms come back after they've had their baby, and in a lot of the consults that I do with moms. You just learn a lot along the way about moms saying, boy, I wish I would have known, and then just fill in the blank. This book is it's easy to read. It's easy to implement the ideas that I share with you. There's no need to wade through tons of other new parenting books just to get the goods on surviving those first 12 weeks. This book is full of cheat sheets that I wished I had when I was pregnant the first time. Perhaps you had a cesarean and you didn't plan on it. Here's where I see lots of moms have problems afterwards. They just didn't plan on it, so they didn't prepare for it, and their household is not set up for a mom who cannot walk up and down stairs or walk down a long hallway or get in a certain bed. She needs to work her way into that. So we talk about having a nursing station or a feeding station or just another room in the area where she would probably be spending most of her time. Just a lot of little tips like that and preparing for so much more. That's just one little example. We talk about how to find a breastfeeding friendly physician. How do you know if breastfeeding is going well or you're struggling? Talk about how do you handle all the chores that need to be done after the baby's born? And not just for the first week or two when you have a partner home with you, but for weeks and weeks and weeks afterwards. This adds a lot of stress to moms postpartum. And what I wanted to do was create a book that could help you prepare for this stage to reduce your stress and have you enjoy those first 12 weeks postpartum. So if you want more information about the book and you want to order it, all you need to do is go to allaboutmothering.com/4th-trimester-ebook. All right, let's get back to the show. I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about the work that you do, because you're an IBCLC in a hospital, and I did want to congratulate you on your new position, the Director of Marketing for USLCA. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yes, I am IBCLC in the hospital where I work here in Roanoke. And so what I do there is, I see mother and babies in the hospital, right after they're born. I'm usually there interrupting your magic hour, making sure that that baby does the most beautiful breast crawl you've ever seen and attached to the breast. And I also do outpatient consultations there at the hospital. And I got this new position at the United States Lactation Consultant Association, or USLCA, which is an association for lactation consultants. So we kind of help the IBCLCs with their career. We do conferences and webinars and anything education-wise to excel the IBCLC career. That's what we do. And so I am currently the Director of Marketing. And so what I am in charge of is everything that you see on social media. That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, some of the website, any press type stuff. That's what I do. And I really enjoy it because I really like talking to people, if you haven't noticed. So I get to...
No, didn't notice that at all.
So I get to go out there and kind of be the face and talk to people and figure out, what we can do differently, how we can market certain things. And so far it's really fun. I will say though that when I first got on board and they said, you do understand that this is a working board, in my head, I interpret that as, we all volunteer, so I don't get paid to do it. We all have jobs and then we do this. That's what I assumed working board was. Once I started in my first day and they were bringing me on board and telling me everything. And I said, man, you guys do a lot of work. The old director of marketing was like, yes, we are a working board. And I was like, well, now I know what that means. I assume it's because we all had jobs.
You know what? I would have thought the same way that you did.
Yeah, but I enjoy it. And I've met so many people doing this, and it's been a good job. And I'm looking for the next 3 years and hopefully another 3 years if I get voted to do so.
Where is the main office?
The main office is in DC, but since we all kind of work from home, our admin, one is in Chicago, the other one I don't remember where she's at. And then the rest of us there's somebody in Maryland, I'm here in Roanoke, our president is in California, which is very interesting having calls with her and getting emails. I usually get emails from her like in the middle of the night.
Yeah, because the
time
frame.
difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So does the board ever actually get physically together other than at the conference?
Yes, we do. From what I was told, there are 2, I want to say maybe 3 in-face board meetings a year. And they do that to cut costs and stuff like that. So we do most of our interaction on phone, email, stuff like that. But we do have face-to-face board meetings, and they're usually long. So it's not like one day and then that's it. Like we do work for several days in person.
You're a working
That's
board.
right. We are a working board. And that surprised me too, because I was thinking, we get together for like 3 hours, 4 hours, and then that's it. For that conference at Texas was my first board member as being the official director of marketing. And they did say that we were going to be doing board stuff for, a few days prior to the conference and then working while we're at the conference. And I'm thinking it's going to be like an hour or 2 here and there. Oh no, it was like a full 8 hours worth of stuff.
They are like drilling down.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And, I remember telling director of programming.
I'm actually going to interrupt you for a second because we know what we're talking about, but many of my audience might not. So let's go backward and then go forward. So tell us what USLCA is, what it stands for, and what it does.
The USLCA stands for the United States Lactation Consultant Association, and we are an organization that supports the IBCLC, which is the International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. And we are here to educate and excel the IBCLC. So pretty much anything that we can do to help the IBCLC excel in her career is what we do. We charge membership dues. And so for membership, you get webinars every quarter, and then you get discounts on other webinars for continuing education. We hold the conferences. We have partnerships set up so that you can increase your reach to mothers out there through our Find a Lactation Consultant directory, and then through another directory called Mama Views. We do work with licensure too to try to get the IBCLC as a license, like say a RN would be, so that we can get reimbursement through insurance, which means we can expand our reach to see more mothers. That's the biggest thing that we work on. And so where I fit in with all of that as a director of marketing is I'm in charge of like everything that you see social media. I'm like the face, I guess, kind of. So like I talk to people. I, again, do the social media advertisement.
You like that first impression.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it works well because I don't mind doing it. I love talking to people. And this actually gets me out there and gets me talking and stuff. So which is something that I love.
So the organization really understands and respects and values and does whatever they can to help those who have gotten their certification and continues to help us through training, additional learning, so that we don't only just get our certification and then go on our merry way. We need to recertify every 5 years. And USLCA provides learning and educational opportunities through webinars and such, and also from a yearly conference.
Right, exactly. And another thing is we only serve the United States. I know there's other organizations that are more international. Well, we only are concerned with the issues of the United States. So if you are an IBCLC here in the US, our concern is what's going on here in this country and not what's going on abroad. Although we should, keep what's happening out there in our head, in our minds, because that could ultimately affect us later on. But we're concerned about what happens here.
In IBCLCs, we do care what's happening in other countries. But can you just one example of why, under that umbrella, why USLCA, you're really geared towards the United States? You need to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in other countries. But give me an example of why we might not necessarily need to be full all in on what's happening in other countries and concentrate more on what's happening in the United States.
For one thing, the way we view breastfeeding here in the United States is much different than what they do in other countries. We don't value it the same. And so that right there within itself is a unique issue because, some other countries, they value the breastfeeding. It's important. And the lactation consultant they know is important. And so when they can afford one to be around, which is usually the big issue in other countries, is just money to have somebody professional around, they're valued and they're treated a little bit differently. Here, there's not a high value on breastfeeding, unfortunately, just because formula is just heavily more marketed here than traditionally most places. And so we have to combat that. We have to first prove that we are important and then kind of navigate and tell other people, how we're useful and how we help, what we can help. And that's a big thing about the licensure, why USLCA is very big into the licensure, because IBCLCs have the education. We're important. We're just as good as the nurses do, and they're licensed. We're just as good as that compared for licensing. And so they're very big on that, just because, we're important here. We're important for breastfeeding. Breastfeeding does matter. And so our breastfeeding issues here are just unique because of that overall reason. It's just the value of breastfeeding.
So what you're saying is that we have specific problems inherent to the United States that are not problems in other countries. And we need to fix things here that may not need fixing there.
Exactly. And not to say that we don't care about what's going on in other places. We have education and we keep an ear to the ground for what's happening over there, especially if it's some changes that they're doing that we can implement here.
Yeah. So I don't want anybody to think it's not an us or them. It's just, and we all care about each other. It's just that we do have some problems that other countries may not need to be concerned about, may not be needing for the organization to put their time, money, and energy towards creating things or fixing things. And again, sometimes I forget that we might be speaking a language or using acronyms. And I always have to remember that not everybody knows what it is we're talking about. So thanks for explaining that. And I do believe they have chosen the right person for the right job there, Director of Marketing for you, Dominique.
Thank you.
You're doing that for 3+ years?
Well, it's 3 years. And then I think the way it's written is that after 3 years, I have to be voted in again into the position if I choose to do it again. After 3 years, I would nominate myself, and then the members, so active members, will vote if they want to keep me or not. So I hope I do a good enough job that they will want to keep me.
I can't see how it's possible that they might not. It might be more about you finding something more interesting, not more interesting, but something interesting and different and unique for you to maybe go to another level or where that would probably be the only.
But right now, I would like to stay with the program a little bit longer because we're trying to do some changes. And I was talking to one of the other board members. I was like, just our luck, we're going to do all these changes and it's going to be wonderful. And then we get voted out.
See, here's what happens sometimes. Then everybody else gets to take the credit.
Right, exactly, of all the work that we did. So she thought that was hilarious.
Was there anything else about breastfeeding that you would like for... I'd like to talk in terms of the new mother in mind. Anything that you would like, words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom that you think that it will be helpful for the new mother who may be having some trying times breastfeeding and getting through those first weeks. What would you like to share with her?
I will share your listeners what I usually tell all of the moms that I encounter, especially if they seem to be very stressed that the breastfeeding isn't going the way the book said it was supposed to go. I always tell them to relax, take it one feeding at a time, and to always ask for help, whether it's from lactation consultant or their partner, their mother, their cousin, a friend, a breastfeeding support group, anybody. Always ask for help, and ask for help for anything, even if it's just change a diaper, or can you just come and sit and talk to me for an hour or some, anything like that. Take it one feeding at a time. If the first feeding did not go the way you planned, the great thing about breastfeeding is the baby will nurse at least 8 times a day. So you get 7 other chances to do it again.
Yeah. And you know what I say? And you're right. And I say, not only do you get 7 other chances, but if you have an average supply, your baby's going to need both sides. So you're going to get 14 more chances every single day.
That's right. You get lots of chances. And I think mothers get hung up on it. That first latch didn't go so well. So now it's all going to, be ruined, and the breastfeeding relationship is going to be ruined. And I'm like, hey, this baby's got to eat several times today. So just because we didn't quite get it right the first time at 8 o'clock in the morning, this baby's got to eat again by 10.
Like it or not.
Right. So you get to try again. Then the other thing I like to drive home is just ask for help. Always ask for help. Sometimes being a mom, especially in this country, we don't do it the way we used to do it. And we don't do it the way most other countries do it. We kind of send a mom home with a new baby and send her on her way, sink or swim. Sometimes we think we have to be superwoman, and we think we have to do all the things, and we don't. So ask for help. If husband's around or your partner's around and they're just watching TV, but you need the laundry done, hey, can you put that load in the wash? Or, everybody wants to come over and see the new baby. I usually tell people, if you can't do a chore, then you can't come see my baby. Then you'll see who your real friends are.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Your real friends will say, okay, and they'll come do the dishes.
You just gave me an idea to make up a meme that says that. What did you just say? If you're not going to do a chore, you can't come see me.
That's right. You can't come see my baby. If you're not going to come do a chore, you can't come see my baby.
I love that. If you see that on my Facebook page, soon you'll know where it came from.
But I say that because a lot of people say they're going to come over in the disguise of helping, and all they're doing is sitting on the couch holding the baby. You don't need help holding your baby. You you do really good at holding your baby. You held your baby for 9 months or however long you were pregnant for. When you were in the hospital, you held your baby just fine. If you didn't, we wouldn't give you your baby, right? We would give the baby to somebody else if we couldn't hold your baby. You can hold your baby just fine. What you really need help with is the dishes, the laundry, entertaining your other children, cleaning, all the other stuff that kind of goes by the wayside when you have a baby, because new babies, whether they're breastfed or formula fed, are demanding. And you need to heal from your birth. Those are things you need help with. So I tell everybody, don't come to my house unless you plan on doing a chore. And I say, you'll figure out who your real friends are, because your real friends will say, okay, what do you need done? And they'll do it. The people that are like associates will say, oh, okay, well, I'll see you when you're out and about.
Yeah. Oh, they want me to work. I got to work to see the baby. I'm not going there to be entertained.
Exactly. Right. New moms shouldn't have to entertain. So those are my words of wisdom. Ask for help and just take it one feeding at a time.
I love how you expanded on that, because we are not necessarily the best at asking for help. And it's almost like that advice is almost as simplistic as saying sleep when the baby sleeps.
Right. And we know that doesn't happen.
So it's the same thing with ask for help. Like, oh yeah, I know I could ask for help, but are you asking for help? Are you asking the right person for help? And are you them to do the thing that you really need for them to do, so that you can then go back to relaxing and working on breastfeeding? So I love how you expanded on that rather than just say ask for help, because women just need to hear that many, many times. And I would love for new mothers to get that and learn that message the first time around, and not have to suffer the first time around and the second or third time say, you know what? Now I am going to ask for help because I really know how hard it all can be. And I don't know why I was so stubborn and didn't ask for help. I don't know why I thought everybody, like I needed to do this all alone. If you can learn that lesson the first time, you're going to be sitting pretty in that department.
Exactly. And that's when I teach my classes and everything. That's what I really, I try to let moms know. And I tell the dads too, or whoever their partner is, I say, this is for you guys. You guys need to do this. And I tell them, you need to be referees. Don't have people coming over and expecting your partner to entertain them, because it's not fair. It's not right. And babies don't like it. The truth be known.
Oh, I love that line. Babies don't like it.
They don't want to be passed around. They just want to lay on mom's chest and sleep on their milk pillows. That's all they really want to do.
And they don't want to have their feedings delayed while they're being passed around.
Exactly. So, I was like, babies don't like it that much either. And then, I get the occasional person in the class that says, well, my family, they're going to be there in the room, da-da-da-da-da. And I tell everybody, I say, your family literally has the rest of this baby's life to see them. They don't have to see within the first couple days. They really don't. I mean, this baby is not going to be 18 years old once it leaves the hospital and move out. So they're not going to miss anything.
When people are real insistent, I will then make that suggestion of having like a baby viewing, like pick 1 hour, one day, an open house, come between 2 and 3 o'clock. I'm going to serve you great food. You're going to see the baby.
That's a very good idea. I like that. And that way it's on the mom's terms too. And she's not having to get up and shower when she doesn't want to. Because let's face it, showers are very few and in between on those first couple days.
Exactly. And it's very stressful for moms to have to think about getting ready for everybody. Well, thank you so much, Dominique, for hanging out with me today. You gave such a wealth of information. You got a great sense of humor. I learned a lot from you. I learned a couple of nice, cool phrases. Like I always say, sometimes I get tired of hearing me say the right things, but in the same way. And I'm always looking for different ways to say something and add a little humor to it. And you definitely added to my little bank of info today, too.
I'm glad I could help.
Well, you're welcome. You take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.
I will. Thank you so much.
I would like again to thank Dominique so much for being such a great guest and sharing not only her breastfeeding life, but also giving us a window into her life as a mother of young children. This is a great story of early breastfeeding and bed sharing. And for anyone who might wonder if this style of early parenting means that you will have dependent young children, you can see that Dominique bed shared with her mom for a long time, and you can see that her kids eventually they do leave the family bed and become independent, thriving children who do go to school, they do separate, they go to camp, and they just have no problems being little independent little people growing into toddlers, into teenagers and adults. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I will close today's show with a quote that reminds me of Dominique and her family. And it goes like this: family, where life begins and love never ends. Until the next show, bye-bye.